It's incredible! Bang on target!
Hello, good afternoon. It is Thursday, the 4th day of February 2021. You are watching Pan-African News on Pan-African Television. My name is Abena, Dede. We are live across 46 African countries and some part of Europe. We're also live on Facebook at Pan-African Television. Coming up in our local front, danger in Parliament as some members are attending proceedings after testing positive with COVID-19. Also coming up, Cockerbird to appear before Parliament on release of funds to license buying companies. And in business, we look at COVID-19 effect on Okada business. On our international front, we will delve into Sudanese politics. Bless Ayawaso will later update us in the happenings in the world of sports. We'll bring you details of these stories, including some others, in the next 1 hour. Don't go anywhere. If you just tune in, this is the main bulletin of Pan-African News here on Pan-African Television. We are live at our studios here, 48 Swanika Street, Abelempe. We're also live on Facebook at Pan-African Television. In our first story, there's an impending danger at Parliament House as some members of Parliament who have tested positive for COVID-19 are still attending parliamentary proceedings. Several members are also refusing to submit themselves for testing. Now, Speaker of the House, Alban Kingsford Sumani Bagbin, has threatened to publish names of all members of Parliament who refuse to take the COVID-19 test. First, let's hear from the Deputy Speaker, Joseph Osei-Owusu.
The officers undertaking the COVID test have up to 4 p.m. to leave the presence of Parliament. Thus far, about 50 members of Parliament and staff have not submitted to the test. I'm pleased requesting any member or any staff who have not submitted to the test to please do so immediately. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, draw the attention of members to the House that some members of Parliament who have in fact tested positive to the COVID are still coming to the chamber. The Speaker wishes me to inform that if those members do not withdraw and isolate, he will be forced to publish the names of members who have tested positive in order to warn the rest of us. Please, let's take this protocol seriously and let all members who have been informed of their test results that they have tested positive withdraw from the precincts of Parliament, not just the chamber. Stay home and self-isolate, go through the protocols and recover before they return to the House.
The Minority Chief Whip, Muntaka Mohammed, shared his views.
A procedure that has served us well in the past. Mr. Speaker, what is it? After the test, our medical director talks to the whips on their side, those who have tested positive. So you assist, you keep the confidentiality, but you assist the members to stay out. Then you also know them as whip to help them stay away. Without necessarily telling, for example, Honorable Anodon Pre, who is the whip for majority, the members on the minority, or telling me, Muntaka, the members on the majority, but members on my side, I need to know so that I can help the House ensure that these members are not only also not in their offices. So I hope that this will be there. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, all of us, those who have taken the test, even where it is negative, it is important that that report, that sheet is given to every member. You just don't keep quiet and tell me that if I'm not called, that means I'm negative. If it is only when you are positive that you will be called. No. The results of the report, the test, must be issued to every member so that I can know that, but if they call me, I didn't pick. And yet they keep calling me and I'm not. Give me, as Muntaka, the results of my test, negative, so that I can keep it. But not to keep it to yourself and say that if you don't receive a call, that means you are negative. If you receive a call, then you are positive. But if I don't pick my call, I believe that if we streamline this, it will help not only the whips, but it will help the whole House to be at more calm. Thank you.
Our Majority Leader, Oseche Mensah-Bosu, says members should comply with the directive.
Last week, as of last week, Friday, 60 of the members, not members and staff, 60 of the MPs have not submitted themselves. And it was what occasioned our recalling the technical people to come back. The Speaker, yesterday, only 5 people submitted themselves. Yesterday, only 3 people submitted themselves. Today, only 5 have. So it means that out of the 60 that have not submitted, 52 have still not submitted. And that is the danger. I do know for a fact that a couple of us have submitted at some private institutions, some private health facilities. I'm not too sure of the number, but I do know of at least 3 who have shown their test results to me. That still would not exonerate the remaining 52. The Speaker, it's important that we submit ourselves. They were to leave at 3, and I've pleaded with them to stay up to 4:30, and they said to me that they can only stay up to 4. So I've pleaded with those who have not yet submitted themselves to please exit to go and submit themselves. Many of the staff have also not submitted themselves. And some of the journalists with us have also not submitted themselves. Let me plead with everybody here, staff, members of parliament, and journalists who have not, please submit yourselves. And as the Speaker said to us, if you don't, in all likelihood, from next week, as the Speaker insisted, we will not allow people who have not submitted to be in the chamber. And perhaps for the staff, not even to be in your various offices. So, Mr. Speaker, it's a very serious matter.
Away from Parliament, let's go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of Ghana will on Friday, February 5th, 2021, hear an application by counsel for petitioner Chatu Chikata to have a third witness heard in chamber. This, according to the lead counsel for the petitioner, has become a necessary action after the court dismissed the petitioner's request to inspect some 6 documents which were used in the declaration of the 2020 presidential elections.
The petitioner had initially called 2 witnesses, General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, Johnson Asiedu Nkitia, and Dr. Michael Pesa-White, a member of the party who was stationed in the strong room of the first respondent to back his claims. However, the 7-member panel unanimously dismissed a request by the petitioner to be allowed to inspect some 6 documents, namely the originals of the constituency presidential election results collation forms from 9 for all constituencies, the originals of all constituency presidential election results summary sheet from 10, the originals of the regional presidential election collation forms from 11 for all regions, the originals of the regional presidential election results summary sheet from 12 for all regions, and the original of the declaration of the presidential results form from 13. The petitioner also wanted permission to inspect the records of the alleged update to the purported declaration of presidential election results on 9th December 2020 of the results of 4 constituencies in the Greater Accra region, all in the custody of the Electoral Commission. This was after the counsel for the first and second respondents raised some objections that the documents in contention are already in the custody of the petitioner through his agents who monitored their elections across the country. They also prayed that the court applies its decision on the same issue in the 2012-2013 petition where it denied such a request. In his address to the 7-member panel of justices of the Supreme Court after the ruling, lead counsel for the petitioner, Chatu Chikata, indicated that he would like to call a third witness after initially making arrangements for 2 witnesses for the hearing. He, however, explained that the third witness being introduced had some health complications, and for the purposes of confidentiality due to the condition of the witness, he would prefer the court to hear him in chambers. The court subsequently adjourned sitting to Friday, February 5 to give its ruling on the matter. However, lawyers for the petitioner have been directed by the court to file witness statement by close of Thursday, February 4.
So we'll bring you the live feed of the 2020 election petition hearing tomorrow. Away from that, the Ghana Cocoa Board is to appear before Parliament over non-payment to cocoa farmers through their respective licensed buying companies. This follows statement made on the floor of Parliament by Member of Parliament for Buim, Kofi Adams, on the delay in the release of funds to licensed buying companies by the Ghana Cocoa Board.
The delay in the release of funds to licensed buying companies by Cocoa Board is affecting the socio-economic conditions of cocoa farmers across the country. The situation, according to the Member of Parliament for Buim, Kofi Adams, has become so dire that families of cocoa farmers are under immense stress. Kofi Adams has therefore called on the Ghana Cocoa Board to release funds to the licensed buying companies to pay cocoa farmers.
From my constituency and other constituencies in the cocoa growing regions is that cocoa farmers have not been paid by licensed buying companies for their cocoa purchase in the last 2 months. And even though we are just in the 3rd month of the main cocoa season, Mr. Speaker, the grim nature of the issue becomes more apparent when I use the plight of farmers in my district as an example. In Buem, from just 5 LBCs, that is 5 license buying companies, farmers are owed 11,055,000 Ghana cedi, representing 16,750 bags of cocoa beans purchased from them by these LBCs. Mr. Speaker, this situation defeats government's efforts at investing in the cocoa sector to motivate farmers to keep their produce in the country. Further, in the Western North, Mr. Speaker, only Kajal Sourcing Company is currently paying for cocoa purchase from the farmers. This is because they have their own funds to do so. Even more worrying, Mr. Speaker, is the sad fact that some of these farmers have been plunged into debilitating health conditions with no funds to seek medical assistance. These farmers resort to loans that are usually accompanied by cutthroat interest just to provide basic needs such as feeding and clothing for their family. Mr. Speaker, it is my considered view that if Parliament, which approved the syndicated facility for the purpose of purchasing cocoa for the 2020-2021 crop season, does not intervene to get Cocoa Board to release funds to LBCs to enable them pay the farmers for the cocoa beans purchased, the economic and health situation of these farmers and their dependents will further deteriorate. Farmers who are engaged in cocoa production will be motivated to practice the unfortunate smuggling of beans as the only way of survival. I urge you to use your to direct the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, which has oversight Cocoa Board, which has oversight responsibility over Cocoa Board, to immediately take steps to ensure payments are effected to cocoa farmers in Buem constituency and all other cocoa farming areas.
However, the majority describes the comment by Kofi Adams as factually inaccurate.
And I want to say it here and now that the information he had was inaccurate. Whilst he was on his feet, I checked the facts, and it is not the case that Ghana Cocoa Board has not paid LBCs. It is not. No, please. This is a very serious matter for economy. It's not just, let's get serious, with all due respect. The rule provides that by the indulgence of the House and the leave of Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, perhaps if Honorable Kofi Adams had fully complied after you granted leave, he had shared his statement with us aforehand, which would have satisfied the indulgence criteria. We would have assisted him to deal with this inaccuracy, because as it is, he himself did not even verify from Ghana Cocoa Board. He himself has not told us which LBC in Buem has not paid farmers. He has also not told us PCs in Western North have refused to pay farmers. Yet he is here talking about the plight of farmers. And I'm saying that if you create this impression that Ghana Cocoa Board that came to this house, sought funds from the international financial market, has drawn down, given returns of having paid farmers, has refused to pay, Mr. Speaker, this has consequences on our financial market.
This called for further comments from the minority, buttressing the fact that Cocoa Board has delayed in releasing fund.
Deputy Majority Leader is misinterpreting the content of the document he referred to in this house. In that document, Cocoa Board alluded to the fact that this House approved 1.3 billion. And as at the time they were putting out that information, they have not assessed the entire 1.3 billion. And he indicated that 190 million is still, as they have not still assessed that amount. That explains their inability to pay for the cocoa that they have purchased. Mr. Speaker, the reality is this.
Still on our local front, some students of the University of Ghana have lamented over what they described as the distasteful nature of online learning system, which has become the norm for educational institutions due to the novel coronavirus pandemic. They are therefore calling on the government and school authorities to implement an 80% in-person lecture system and 20% online study system to facilitate academic work. My colleague Makiza Micheline has more on this report.
Following the closure of schools, the president, in his 21st update on measures taken to curb the spread of the virus, announced the reopening of schools. For some tertiary students who had to complete a section of their 2020-2021 academic work online, the new academic year, which began on January 9, has become challenging for them as they still have to study online. The students shared their frustration with the news team.
Studies for now, it's mostly online, so for now I guess we are coping with it. It's okay. Sometimes there's a bit of a challenge because it's online and the mode of delivery is not really consistent sometimes, so we have some challenges understanding the lessons and the courses. Most of the lecture videos are recorded, so we don't really have the opportunity to ask questions if you don't understand, unless there is an extra tutorial session for the students who have questions to ask them. So sometimes a bit of a challenge understanding the courses before the lecturer meets us, so that's the main challenge for now.
Sometimes the online classes are very difficult to go because sometimes the network is not good, so you get logged out of class and all that, but then you still have to be in that class. So it's either you just get some place on campus that is suitable for the network so that you can have the class there or something.
Okay, personally, I'll speak from the angle of a student here. I'm a student here. Before Corona, I would have come to campus to have my lectures on Fridays and Saturdays. But now, thanks to Corona, it's purely virtual. It's got its positive and negative sides as well. One, it has taken away the risk of me having to travel from far to campus every weekend. That is a very positive one. And also the cost of the transportation, at least. Now, virtual, all I need to spend on is my data. Unfortunately, you know Ghana and our networks, most of them are so bad where I am that I have challenges. Sometimes it can even go for like 5 minutes and the lecturer is already talking and you don't even hear what is going on. So that is the major thing, the major effect it has had on our academics. Also, you realize that in most of the programs you would have loved to have in class session, right? Because most of them are so practical that when the lectures are doing it virtual, you find it quite difficult to grasp the thing. So that is the challenge for me as a student.
Online studies is a stress right now because it's something new to everyone, so we are actually trying to cope with the online studies. I think with time we'll get used to it. So yeah, internet.
President of the Senior Staff Association of University of Ghana, Francis Sosu, has accused the government and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission of neglecting senior staff workers of the university. Speaking in an interview with my colleague Makiza Micheline, Francis Sosu indicated that several calls to government to release members Tier 2 fund owned them from 2010 to 2016, and payment of some non-basic allowances had fallen on deaf ears.
In brief, we are asking for release of our members Tier 2 pension fund from 2010 up to 2016. We are also asking the government to give us an interim market improvement and non-basic allowance, which will be given to our senior members on university campuses. We are also talking about the review of our conditions of service. The last time it was reviewed was 2008. Up to date, it's only review. So we want to sit with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to review the conditions of service for our members.
Have you had any meetings with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission?
Yes, we are waiting to them to sit down with us, but they've neglected us. I even happen to be a messenger. I've been sending letters to them, but they never give us a reply to all the letters.
So do you think this is a deliberate attempt on the part of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission?
No, that question will be answered by them. To be answered by them.
So what are you looking forward to now, or what is the next line of action?
Yeah, our action is 1. Tier 2 pension fund should not be negotiated. It's a money which will be deducted from source of my salary. Give it to me. Why should I sit down to negotiate with that money? It shall be deducted as source. Give it the money to me. We are not able to give. It should not be negotiated. 2. The entry market premium have been given to some group of people or staff on Legon campuses or all the campuses, like senior members. We are also working in the same university. We also need a market premium and a non-basic allowance. Cross-side the ministry, they were giving. They didn't give it to the senior management. They gave it to all the staff.
Up on our local front, the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram constituency, Sam Narkie George, has called for justice for compensation for victims of the Ayawaso West Ogun by-election. Sam George says the government has showed bad faith by not compensating the victims 2 years after the incident. He made this comment on the floor of Parliament.
I thank you for the opportunity to make this statement. This past Sunday, 31st of January 2021, marked the second anniversary of the by-elections held in the Ayawaso West Ogun constituency. The incidents of the matter of public knowledge and have left an indelible scar on the fourth Republican democracy of our nation. A number of harrowing incidents that sought to mar Ghana's democracy and question our faith in our security services occurred in the full glare of the media. A public outcry and international condemnation led to the setting up of a commission of inquiry by His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, pursuant to Article 278 of the Constitution, to probe the unfortunate events that undermined the electoral pool today. Mr. Speaker, the commission chaired by Justice Emil Short on the 14th of March 2019 submitted this report to the presidency and made recommendations for further investigation, compensation, structural changes in the security architecture of the country, among other recommendations. Despite the recommendation of the President's Commission of Inquiry on compensation for 8 out of the 16 and the acceptance of same in the white paper, these 8 innocent citizens have been ignored by the authorities.
Coming up in business, Okada riders demand legalization of business.
Hello. Okay, why? My wife comes and send a message. You hello. What's happened?
It's a child who's will be a quiet say what? I dare say,
we side from a friend. I'm so young. My wife is not testing messages here. And now, so I'm trying to tell you, she says, I
mean, so we a guy manu, and may young who could look cry. And also wants a family drilling company limited for Ghana.
What's the name? Family Drilling Company Limited.
Here to borehole, biofuel, biogas, swimming pool, plumbing works in Yinaso, Ye Frey 0240 333 111 and NASA 0244 144 822.
Me and Pa and you want swimming pool me see. Me want to will be here. Family drilling now. Family drilling. Me out with that.
Welcome to the business segment of the news. The National Tricycle Association of Ghana is calling on government to legalize the operations of Okada business in the country. Speaking to Pan-African News, Public Relations Officer of the association, Evans Wedger, indicated that legalization of Okada business would help regulate the activities. He also urged Ghanaians to support the Okada business since that is their only source of livelihood.
Are the national communicator for the Motorcycle Association.
Yes, please, sir.
So what is your intake when it comes to road safety in this association? What's your intake on road safety?
Our intake about the road safety, we support road safety. Anything that they are saying about the road safety, we talk to our guys. We are using the road how the law says. We are using the road how the law says. And we support the road safety always. To campaigning about our guys, to teach our guys so that they will know how to use the road, sir.
So, with that being said, do you have your insurance? Because this time around, there are so many problems when it comes to roads, so many accidents, catastrophes, causing mayhem, okay? Someone will say, I am the pedestrian, all right? So, it's the rider's fault. The driver too will say, I have insurance. So, what do you do when you have such problems?
That is one of our challenges that we are facing. That is one of the major challenges to us. We have insurance.
Excessive borrowing from government on the domestic front has denied the private sector opportunity to access the needed capital from the banks for injecting into their businesses to expand or restructure in order to overcome challenges brought by the pandemic. Summary of economic and financial data January 2021 published by the Bank of Ghana has shown that the growth of total advances to the private sector declined to 5.8% in December 2020 from 23.6% the previous year, a sharp decline of 17.8 percentage points. Meanwhile, the data further reveals that domestic debt in nominal terms increased by 21.9 billion Ghana cedis within the stated period, recording 147.3 billion Ghana cedis in December 2020. Again, the rate of borrowing from domestic sources, as expressed by percentage to GDP, was higher in the last 2 months of a year, as a recorded 37.5% and 38.2% growth compared with the 36% and 36.2% recorded for external borrowing. All that this suggests is that government did a lot of business in terms of borrowing with the banks in the last 2 months of 2020, probably to finance its numerous campaign promises as the country headed to the polls in December. Commenting on this, banking consultant Dr. Richmond Etuahene said the decline in bank advancement to the private sector could mean banks adopted a risk-averse attitude towards the sector due to the pandemic's impact on it, which raises questions about businesses' ability to pay back should loans be. Government has indicated it will seek to revive the economy through the ambitious 100 billion Ghana cedis Ghana COVID-19 Alleviation and Revitalization Enterprises Support Program. The 3.5-year program, dubbed Obatanpa, is to be rolled out in 2 phases and aims to raise 70% of its financing from the private sector and the remainder from government to assist in stimulating a boom in economic activities. Hence, banks have a major role to play in achieving these goals if the private sector can live up to the expectation of the Ghana Cares program, as advancing loans to the sector will aid in expansion and other pursuits by businesses which seeks to bounce back from ravages of the pandemic. Against major currencies, the dollar is now buying at 5.75 and selling at 5.763. The pounds is buying at 7.867 and selling at 7.876. The euro is now buying at 6.924 and selling at 6.931. The Naira is buying at 66.088 and selling at 66.355. The Sefa buying 94.653 and selling at 94.736. That's all for business. International news is next. On our international front, Dr. Faith El-Fad of the Sudanese Community Party talks about the current stage of the Sudanese revolution and its betrayal by certain sections of the erstwhile opposition. In the first part of an interview with People's Dispatch, he explains the chronology of the coming together of the opposition, certain compromises and deals made by some sections on what upcoming cabinet reshuffle and formation of a legislative council imply.
Welcome to People's Dispatch. Today we are joined by a very special guest, Dr. Fatih El-Fad, who is the Secretary of the Information Bureau of the Sudanese Communist Party. As we know, Sudan has been seeing a revolution over the past 2 years. The people rose up towards the end of 2018 against the dictator Omar al-Bashir. They managed to overthrow him. Even after overthrowing him, the military junta tried to retain power. The people have been continuously fighting against it, and the Sudanese Communist Party has been in the forefront of these struggles. So today we are joined by Dr. Fatih, he was imprisoned during the protests as part of the Sudanese revolution as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Fatih, the first question I wanted to ask you was regarding the Sudanese revolution itself. It's been over 2 years now. How do you evaluate the progress of these popular movements? What have been the achievements and what are the challenges right now?
The main problem as far as the present situation in Sudan after 2 years, after nearly 2 years, more than 2 years since the beginning of the mass uprising in the country on the 12th of December 2018, is that since the mass demonstrations and protest actions took place without a central leadership, in the sense that at that time there was only the forces of consensus who made a bold step in calling for mass action against the regime. Other forces, especially groups around Sudan Appeal or Nida Sudan, Sudan Call, were very hesitant at the beginning. Especially the Ummah Party, the largest party within the Sudan Call, thought that the mass uprising was not as matured and would not lead to nowhere. And they were, especially late Sadiq al-Mahdi, was negotiating with the regime towards the end of 2018, beginning of even 2019. However, about the Ummah Party supporting the election of the President al-Bashir in 2020. However, the mass uprising took them by surprise, and they tried to join the mass action, and they jumped at the last wagon of that mass action. And on the 19th of January 2019, the Sudan Call people joined hands with the National Consensus Forces, and they formed the Freedom and Change organization. And they signed a minimum program, which is supposed to be the program for the transitional period. What was clear from the very beginning, that differences between the different political forces existed, in the sense that some, while they agreed on the minimum program, however, that there were 2 points which were not very clear at the beginning. First, what is the direction of the mass movement? Whether it is a movement to remove the regime, to overthrow the regime, to dismantle the regime, and to liquidate the regime, which was mentioned very clearly in the document. Others had their own interpretation to that, especially the Umma Party, the Sudan Congress Party, and some of the so-called rebel groups, which thought that the main thing is removal of the ultra-Islamic forces and not the whole regime. And they were ready from the very beginning to accommodate some of these forces within the opposition, which was refused by the SCP and its allies, especially the professional alliance. Here comes the main question. From the very beginning, it was established that the forces for freedom and change will stand only for a complete civil authority, a complete civil power, and no sharing power with the military, which some of the other forces were very hesitant about. So the issue of differences, you might call it that way, or treason, started from the very beginning, even before the overthrow of the head of the state, or the removal of the head of the state as it happened. In the second phase, on the 11th of April 2019, when the Security Committee of the regime removed Omar al-Bashir, some of these forces thought that this is the end of it for them, while others, like the SDP, were demanding a complete go forward, and that the whole power should fall in the hands of the forces of freedom and change, or those forces who are ready to take it. However, here was a problem, because even within the, let us say, the radical forces, there was no plan B, which stipulates how they can raise power from the military or from the regime, previous regime. Here, the main point of contention was how and where and what time we can, the people's authority can be declared.
Now, on Tuesday, February 2, 2021, the workers and trade unionists have demonstrated outside the office of the energy suppliers group Galp Energia in Lisbon, protesting the company's decision to permanently cease crude oil refining at its subsidiary Petroleos de Portugal refinery in Matosinhos. The call for the mobilization was given by trade unions, including Central Commission of Workers of Petrogal, General Confederation of Portuguese Workers, Site-North, etc.
The protesters have demanded to reverse the company's decision to close the oil refinery. Galp Energia has announced its plans for the closure of Petrogal's 110,000 refinery in Matosinhos, citing the difficulties inflicted by the COVID-19 pandemic and in compliance with the directive for energy transition by the European Commission in order to reduce CO2 emission by reducing the use of fossil fuels. The workers of the refinery and the energy sector, trade unions and progressive sections, including the Portuguese Communist Party, have protested the company's decision to close the plant. Abril PT has reported that the closure of the refinery will lead to direct dismissal of more than 400 workers and the indirect dismissal of about another 1,000, referring to companies operating for the refinery. The protesting workers have demanded the company authorities to take measures to maintain and continue working at the refinery in Matosinhos, investment and professional training in the refinery with a view to its modernization and adaptation to the production of new products and the protection of employment with rights and the national interests. On Tuesday, a demonstration was organized also near the official residence of Prime Minister, demanding immediate state intervention on the issue. The members of European Parliament from the Portuguese Communist Party stated that Galp Energia justifies its plans to close the refinery, citing the problems rising from the reduced refined consumption during the pandemic, but which end up meaning clear consolidation of a context favorable to energy transition following the European Commission priorities. The MEPs have opined that it's evident that the end of a pandemic will dictate a return to consumption at pre-COVID-19 levels, and other refinery will have to produce the fuel that has been produced so far. The MEPs accuse that this closure represents an attack on Portugal's energy sovereignty and will also result in the redundancy of hundreds of skilled workers with evident socio-economic consequences. It's a clear example of how public fund, national or EU, can, instead of contributing to cohesion and development, promote unemployment and inequality, added the MEPs.
Credit to our international partners, People's Dispatch, for our international stories. Bless Alumoso joins us with some happenings in the world of sports.
Good afternoon. Let's do some sports updates on the midday news. Now, let's head straight into Ghana Premier League action, and then Legon Cities FC and Karela United will be facing off later today in a cracker. Now, Legon Cities are in the relegation zone. When they manage to win this fixture, they will be out of it. We have a match preview on that fixture. Ghana Premier League continues with exciting matches as Legon Cities welcome Karela FC to the Accra Sports Stadium on Thursday in Match Week 12 of the Ghana Premier League. The last time they played at home, Bashir Hayford and his Chargers bounced back from a goal down to beat Ashanti Gold 5-2. That performance was followed up with a 1-0 win over Inter-Allies at the same venue. This will be a third straight game at the Accra Sports Stadium for Legon Cities. Karela FC is the only side to have won all of its 6 home matches, but have not fared badly on the road. The Bloods in their record have been 2 defeats at 11 Wonders and Bechem United. The last time Augustine Adoti and his boys came to Accra, they managed a goalless draw with Great Olympics. Karela has the current top scorer, Diwiasi Taylor, in top shape with his partner Kwame Boateng, who has also been banging in the goals. Now let's see some of the results that were played in match
week 12. Now, Great Olympics continued their fine form by winning 3-1 against King Faisal. And then Brekum Chelsea were home to Bechem United, and then they became 2-0 victors in that fixture. Dreams FC took all 3 points and 3 goals when they faced off Wafa at home. Ebusuan Dwarfs and then Ashanti Gold came off again, and then it was 2-1 in favor of Ebusuan Dwarfs. Liberty Professionals and Adriana Stars clashed, and then that match ended in a 0-0 stalemate. 11 Wonders and Elmina Sharks 2 played a 0-0 draw. Kumasi Asante Kotoko continued their fine form when they played at home at the Accra Sports Stadium against Inter Allies. Now, they won that match by a slender 1-0. Later today, Legon Cities and then Karela United will be facing off. We brought you a preview of that fixture. And then Mediama SC will play host to Accra Hearts of Oak. Will they be able to win after they lost to Accra Great Olympics? Now, away from that, former Juventus midfielder Kujua Asamoah has joined Serie A stragglers Cagliari on a short-term deal. The 33-year-old Ghanaian joins Cagliari as a free agent after terminating his contract with Inter Milan last October and has signed a contract until the end of the season.
The 33-year-old began his playing career in Ghana with the Liberty Professionals before moving to Italy and signed for Udinese. He spent a brief spell with Torino before moving to Juventus after 4 years with Udinese. At Juventus, he won 6 Scudettos, 4 Italian Cups, and 3 Italian Super Cups. Kujua Asamoah played 156 games, including Champions League and Europa League, scoring 5 goals for the club. He later moved to Inter Milan, spending only 2 years, playing 53 matches for the team. Asamoah played 71 times for the Black Stars and has scored 4 goals. Cagliari boss Eusebio Di Francesco hopes Asamoah's experience would help his team stay afloat this campaign. He joins countryman Alfred Duncan, who also signed for Cagliari on loan from Fiorentina last month.
That's how we draw curtains on today's Midday Sports. My name is Blessed Manalomaso.
That's all for this afternoon's bulletin. My name is Abena, Dede. Big thanks to our 46 African countries who watched us and those who watched us live on Facebook. My name again, Abena, Dede. For more news, do join us this evening at 7 p.m. on Pan African Television.